Good morning. And welcome. I'm sorry about that. It's morning. I haven't enough yet. Today is the last day that I must wear a mask. It's the 20th day after I began testing negative for COVID. Of course, the mask isn't necessary on a video chat. Mm. That's better. Oh, wow. Okay, I had my first symptoms on. Hi, Top Rankin. Uh, in the chat. This is the 20th day since I began testing negative. Sorry, for COVID. So it's the last day I have to wear a mask. Oh, wow. It's awesome that I did not feel ill enough to go to a doctor. Of course, my cigarette went out. By the way, what I do is more like burning cigarettes. Your typical smoker will suck the smoke down into their lungs. I don't do that. Yuck. No way. It's also how some people smoke marijuana. Well, no, I don't do that. I just puff on them. So they tend to go out because I'm not sucking on them. And because of recent regulations that forbid the manufacturers to put these horrible chemicals in the paper, the chemicals that make them keep burning. Tora, what are you doing? Is there a critter out there that you want to hunt? Hi, kitty catty. Say hi to your adoring fans. You know the drill. You gotta say hello before you get treats. I don't wanna say hello. By the way, if your cat squints at you, that's kitty kisses. They're saying I love you. All right. Here's your treats. There you go. Tora is a weird cat. She doesn't come to the treats. She goes to the spot where she wants me to put her treats. Okay. Well, it's Tuesday morning and my internet and I are both functioning. Yay. There is still a little strip of snow on the side of the road, but it hasn't snowed in a while. It's just been too cold for the snow to melt. I have been to Goodwin's for groceries a couple times with a mask, but I still have them deliver heavy things like cat litter. I do shop with a friend because I don't have a car and I have trouble lifting groceries in and out of the car to bring them home. But she's about my age and she doesn't like picking up 10 or 15 pounds of cat litter either. And the cats are inside. They have been since October because of the weather. it isn't that they don't want to go play in the snow, it's that I don't want to open the door to let them back in. Well, anyway, I can't wait for April or May when I leave the door open and let the cats go in and out. Less litter box duty. Mm. See, when I drink a liquid, it ends up all over my face. I don't know why I can't do it right, but I have to wipe it or dab it. Anyway, it's a beautiful sunny morning, but it's kind of cold. Let's see. My phone says it's 42 Fahrenheit. That's pretty darn cold. Oh, gosh. Anyway, the gas bill is outrageous. As much as a third of the bill in California is taxes and fees. So that's a problem. But the excuse that the gas company, Southern California Gas, gives us is that the price of gas went up because of shortages. Well, excuse me, but they buy natural gas from themselves. They are a Sempra Energy. Shut up, phone. They're a Sempra Energy company. They're owned by the company that sells the gas. Seems to me that's the old bait and switch. Or no, not the bait and switch. What is it where they have 3 cups and the pea is under one of the cups and you have to guess which one? Anyway, it's sort of like a Ford dealer saying the prices of Ford cars went up. Well, they are Ford. Jeez. We don't have many options here in the mountains. Sure, there's electricity, but it usually goes down during winter storms when the temperatures are below freezing. Some people can use the fireplace to keep warm. Now, that isn't good for the environment, burning wood. Even the pellet stoves are not nearly as clean as natural gas. And when the wind is blowing and the rain and snow are falling and it's 20 degrees, natural gas keeps going. You can cook your food and heat your home. And if we couldn't do that, all our water pipes would freeze. All these other alternative means to heat the house, like a portable propane heater, never mind that they'll pollute the air and make you ill while you're shut inside with them. They won't stop the water pipes from freezing. Without gas, we would have burst water pipes, frozen and burst all over the mountain. Hundreds and thousands of burst water pipes. Now that would be a real disaster. We'd have people without heat, without light, without water, without internet and phone, without electricity. In the old days, your landline phone would keep working, but most people don't have them anymore. They've become an expensive luxury. Nobody's chatting with me today. Well, anyway, getting rid of gas appliances is not a good idea. And by the way, most of, sorry, I got a cough today. Most of the power generation stations that the electric companies own in California burn natural gas to make electricity. And we still have to buy electricity off of the grid, and most of the power plants outside of our state burn coal. So, switching from natural gas to electricity is not an environmental move, it's political. Hang on. I should have done this before I went live. The coughing. I thought I had. Well, anyway, it isn't for the environment. And now that we've got all this rain, over 90% of the rainwater went out into the ocean instead of being pumped into our reservoirs or onto our farms or into the California aqueduct. Why? Well, there's this invasive fish species called Delta smelt, mostly in the Sacramento River. It doesn't belong here. It is not native. But back when Arnold Schwarzenegger was our governor, the bureaucrats in Sacramento decided to protect this endangered fish that doesn't belong here and is actually disrupting our environment. Well, now, with Governor Newsom, who probably has nothing to do with it, at least Arnold made a speech about it. They can't find the Delta smelt because the stripers, the striped bass, have come in to the Sacramento River and other waterways to eat the Delta smelt. Now, the striped bass never stops eating, it's a killing machine. It's also an invasive species that does not belong here, but it came to eat the Delta smelt, which is a tiny little sardine sized fish. The bass is bigger. Well, so the striped bass has eaten all the smelt. And it's an invasive species too. But now we have to protect the striped bass and the Delta smelt so our farmers in the most productive farmland in the world, better than Ukraine used to be before the war, farmers are quitting because they can't get water, and without water, you cannot grow crops. So, what did they do before all this water management? Well, the valley actually had vast underground reservoirs, natural reservoirs of water that formed without intervention of people. And they would dig wells. Well, their wells have gone dry because of cities pumping out all the water to provide water to people living in the cities, which have sprung up in modern times in the 20th century. There are ways to replenish the underground reservoirs. But they're not allowed to do that. Regulations, rules, not laws, not passed by the legislature, imposed by bureaucrats sitting at a desk. Oh, yeah, they have college degrees in humanities or economics or whatever. They are not scientists. They don't know poop about water and the water cycle. So we got all this rain running out into the ocean. Our reservoirs are slowly filling, and the snowpack is awesome in the Sierras. So we'll have one good year, plenty of water. But because of the regulations, the reservoirs are required to pump a certain amount of water out to the ocean. Or in some cases, just let it flow without pumping it into the California aqueduct or replenishing groundwater, supposedly for the environment. Well, is the environment's purpose to put farmers out of business and have people starving because they can't grow food? Is the purpose to drive California farmers out of the state so big corporations can put in factory farms and build more cities and factories? Hi, Morgan. Morgan is here. Let's see. Morgan. Excellent. Well, isn't the environment supposed to make life better for people? Sorry about that. I suppose I could mute myself when I cough, but I'm not good at that. I'm not good at getting it unmuted. We did use environmental concerns the right way to stop huge, environmentally unsound projects here in the mountains to actually protect native species and prevent people from leveling hillsides to build sports stadiums. And on top of that, our roads could not accommodate the huge buses that would bring people to the sports stadium. But this Delta smelt thing and striped bass is insane. Quite a few farmers have already given up and gone to other states where they're allowed to capture the rainwater in water towers and rain barrels. If you try to do that here, the state comes in and says, we own that water. They seem to think that they own the rain. It's ridiculous. And they own the runoff that's flowing into the ocean and doing nobody any good. And by the way, that huge influx of fresh water into the ocean is bad for the creatures that live in salt water. And on top of that, it prevents the trout and salmon from swimming upstream, which they're supposed to do at least once a year. The salmon in particular are born in fresh water, and when it's time to lay their eggs, they swim upstream to the place where they were born to lay their eggs. But there's so much runoff going into the ocean that they can't swim upstream. I've forgotten the word. I'll call it tide. The flow of the water against them is too strong, because we're not only letting water run down the stream into the ocean, our government is actually requiring that the water be pumped so more of it will run faster and farther and screw up the tidal pools where creatures need salt water and prevent the salmon from swimming upstream. It's a disaster, and it's man made, and it's harming people. What good is it to save the earth if it means millions of people die? Like here, where even those who can afford $1,000 to pay for 1 month of heating their home in winter don't like it, but most of us cannot afford it. And that's the word, it's a shell game. The gas companies buy their gas from their parent company and then say, there's nothing we can do, the price went up. Well, yeah, we sent a bunch of liquefied natural gas to Europe and Asia during their cold, well, they call it winter, but it can't have been winter. It was fall, but it was extremely cold. It's been cold here since October. Winter begins December 21. And the gas company notified us of the rate increase after that month was over, and we already got billed at more than double the previous price. It's too late to conserve. It's already done. Well, okay, so we get our climate credit this month instead of in April, which I always thought was insane. Why should our gas bill be lower in a warm month when the problem happens in a cold month? But it's about $50 off your bill. And if your bill's between $500 and $1,000, that just doesn't help very much. And we always get the credit. We just get it later. That isn't really a fix at all, let alone a quick fix. We have a program here in the mountains called HEAP, Home Energy something. It will help somewhat, but they don't pay till April or May, and the bill is due in about, let's see, almost 2 weeks from now, I think. 1 or 2 weeks. This is February. Historically, February has been the coldest month of the year, but January was incredibly cold, colder than cold. I hope February turns out to be a little warmer this time. Maybe 30 degrees instead of 20 overnight. Sure, we bundle up. We wear sweaters and jackets in the house and wool caps to keep the head warm. But that is not a solution. It's still cold. Hi, Viken. Let me type. Oops. Viken is in England. England General. Shut up, phone. England generally has warmer winters than we do, milder, but it does get cold there too. I wonder if England still has those crazy gas meters. I've seen them in shows like Midsummer Murders and Call the Midwife. When you want gas for cooking and heating, you put coins in the slot. You pay in advance. Oh, you do, Beacon. Yeah, so if you don't have any coins, you can't get gas. At least you know what the bill is going to be. You just paid it before you used it. Oh, it's an electronic token, huh? Oh, Top Rankin's gas furnace went out last month. Had to replace it. Yeah, so cold you could see your breath inside. Well, imagine if you're 80 years old with some health problems and you have no heat in your house. Now, the other thing that often goes down in a winter storm is phone service. How do you call for help? How do you get an ambulance to come get you? Because you're freezing to death, because you're old, you're elderly, and you're ill. Maybe you have the flu, and the cold is not good. It's making it even worse when you try to breathe. You're out of luck. And if you simply had a working heater, you might actually be able to get help and not die. Suppose you're an infant, less than 3 years old, and it's cold. It's 20 degrees at night and 30 in the day, and you have no heat and no light, and you're a little infant or a toddler. You're going to die. The electricity has been out in some parts of this mountain for as long as 2 weeks or more. Well, Edison tried to fix it. Fortunately, most of us check on our neighbors during a disaster or even a major problem, a power outage. So, of course, California wants to eliminate gas appliances. No gas stoves, no gas heaters. I'm just hoping that this was a directive, an executive order from Governor Newsom, along with electric cars, which, by the way, don't work very well when there's snow on the ground and it's 20 degrees. The batteries go whoop because it's cold. They also go out in the desert when it's super hot. They drain due to temperature uh, affecting the innards of the battery. So we should drive around in golf carts, freeze our buns off. Oh, and eat bugs. While the wealthy and powerful elite fly in private jets and ride in limousines to banquets with steak and lobster. Let's see. Vegan gets a little extra toward heating. Yeah, in the springtime when you don't need it so much. Yeah, candles are staple up here, Top Rankin. Um, I have a good supply of emergency candles and even a couple oil lamps. but I worry about using them because the cats might knock them over. So they go out when I go to sleep. I do have a battery powered lantern here. At the moment, I've been using it to see the keyboard on my laptop. I think I got to put the laptop behind me and face the other way permanently. I get more light, I can see better. And I was going to use the desktop computer today, but it wants to update Windows again. Some very nice people have helped me. Most recently, Cardinal Sin, his name is Gil, got me this desktop computer and it's awesome. I already had the flat screen TV for a monitor. And then later he sent me some speakers so that if I play a movie on the desktop computer, it'll have good sound. Apparently, the speakers on that TV screen are blown. They sound tinny. I already have little tiny cheap portable speakers for the laptop. They really do work well for something about the size of a Rubik's Cube. Well, the main cure for these outrageous gas bills is going to be late April and early May when we can shut everything down, even the pilot light around here, because even the pilot light will cost you $10 a month at least. Oh, the rates are going down a little, but they're still about double what they were in December. Hi, Witta. You missed my big old rant about how the environment is supposed to be a concern for how people live. What's the point of saving the earth if all the people are dead? Well, the wealthy and powerful elites have figured out that they don't need 7 billion people to provide them with servants and crop pickers and mindless drone workers. They only need about 1 billion, so they want to kill off the rest of us. And we can eat bugs and go through the winter without heat. Many African countries have their leadership is complaining. We need to develop power plants and fossil fuels because in order to cook their food and stay warm, people are cutting down the trees. They're, deforestation. If we had electricity and fossil fuels, we wouldn't be cutting down all our trees. Yeah, we're living in a Philip K. Dick world for sure. I, I think all of you, if you haven't already, should read The Penultimate Truth, the novel based on a short story I forget the title of the short story, but you really need to read the novel. The short story ends with robots doing things for our own good. The novel is much more sinister. It's the elites using us as slave labor and keeping us happy because we think we're in the midst of a nuclear war. Wow. Oh, the story is The Defenders. It's available as an audiobook on YouTube for free, but the real story is in the novel, The Penultimate Truth. Hmm. So anyway, um, it's really everything is backward, and I will not eat bugs because you can't take the guts out, and I don't eat bug guts. I did eat sweetbreads once, but that's a different thing. It's supposed to be a calf pancreas, cleaned up, washed like crazy, and stuffed with a bread stuffing. I don't think I'll ever eat it again, but I had to know. I just wanted to know what it was, how it tasted, and so forth. I'll never eat frog's legs, chocolate ants, grasshoppers. I think they call them locusts. Well, they're almost the same, slightly different species. Uh, I won't eat crickets or mealworms. Um, no, I am learning how to forage in my own yard. See, if you go out in the forest, you might run afoul of the law. Certain species you're not allowed to mess with, even irises. We can buy irises and grow them in our yards, but if they're growing wild, don't touch them. It'll get you a fine and possibly jail time. Besides, we don't eat irises, they just look pretty. But I have things like feverfew and wild mustard growing in my yard. I just wish I could get rid of the noxious weeds like foxtails. You know, the grasses that look kind of like wheat, but they are not edible and they cause allergies worse than ragweed. When I pull the weeds or whack them, I have to wear a mask or my sinuses fill up. Oh, yes, Morgan hates lobster. It's a sea insect. True, lobster and crab are basically insects that live in the ocean, but we don't eat their guts. I won't eat oysters. For some reason, I like clams, but oysters and clams are snails of the sea. But I like clam chowder. And let's see, Witta refuses to eat bugs. And Viken says bugs carry parasites too. Yes, and simply cooking the insects does not necessarily kill the parasites that will make you, they usually don't kill you, but they'll make you chronically ill and unable to function, unable to work or even enjoy life. Yeah, Witta says there's a good article on how eating bugs isn't good due to parasites. Um, I should give Witta a wrench so she can post links. Um, See, if you don't have a wrench, you can't post links. But Witta needs to post a link to an article. Yeah, it's a freaking dystopia. And they're scared of us. There's 7 billion of us and maybe 50 of them. Oh, and they want us to quit having children. Maybe you can have one, kind of like China. And these elites have anywhere up to 8 or 10 children of their own. Oh, but they're genetically pure, they think. No, they aren't. They're just like the Habsburgs and the Egyptians and and even Queen Victoria. They're so inbred that they aren't healthy. They often look weird. Yeah, they might be intelligent or they might just be crooks who have a lot of money. It's eugenics, folks. They want to eliminate inferior children, like you and me. Oh, yes. Viken is craving chocolate because Witta's icon is a cup of hot cocoa. Yeah, well, I have some chocolate, but I have to rethink it now that Cadbury is made by Nestle, or is it Kraft? Let me check the label. Kraft makes that plastic macaroni and cheese, and Nestle comes into places all over the world, sucks up all the fresh water in streams and underground, and sells it at outrageous prices as fresh spring water. Yeah, it's spring water that goes through a process that takes out all the minerals that would actually improve your health. So it's like $3 or $4 a gallon for water that we used to get for free. Manufactured, blah blah. Hershey. Okay, I think Hershey might be okay. For a while, it was made by Kraft. Hershey, Pennsylvania. But the Cadbury is made by the process they use in England. So when English people come here, British people, they'll taste a Hershey bar and say, oh my God, it tastes like vomit. Because the process we use here is different. And Americans are used to it, don't have a problem with it because we grew up with it. But it is different. It isn't as creamy as the way it's made in England. And there's a kind of lactic acid bite to it. Lactic acid is in the milk. So if you get the dark chocolate, it's usually fine because it doesn't contain milk. So English people can handle the Toll House cookies, the morsels. Beacon says Cadbury's just up the road from where he lives. The Quakers built the area in Bourneville. Yeah, well, the Cadbury in the U.S. is made in Hershey, Pennsylvania, or other factories owned by the Hershey Company. It used to be imported and terribly expensive, but I've always loved it. It's a totally different chocolate experience from what we have here. Mm. I'm going to be coughing today. That's all there is to it. I'm getting all the gunk out of my lungs, but I'm still testing negative for COVID, which is good. I was not ill enough to seek a doctor. I just used cold medicine that you can get at the grocery store without a prescription. I'm not advising you what to do if you get COVID. A lot depends on how ill you are. And they say that this new strain doesn't make you all that ill, but it does make you contagious. And, we don't even want to catch the common cold or the flu. We certainly don't want to catch the measles. And I'd like to know when measles became a deadly disease. When I was very young, there was no vaccination for measles. We just got the measles. Our parents were not stupid. They wanted to get it over with before we matured and became capable of getting pregnant, because the measles can cause birth defects if you get them while you're pregnant. They thought that chickenpox would give you some resistance to smallpox, but apparently that isn't true. Cowpox will give you some immunity to smallpox, and chickenpox might have a slight effect on your immune system. But we didn't know that, and we just got the chickenpox and the mumps. Now, the mumps you want to get in childhood as early as possible, because in men and teenage boys who are becoming mature, the mumps can hit the gonads and cause very serious problems, a lot of pain, not necessarily death with modern medicine, but you might wish you were dead. Huh, that pack is empty. The horror. The horror. But I managed to catch the measles a couple years ago, before COVID. Might be 10 years ago now, I'm not sure. But people didn't want to be anywhere near me. They weren't taking the chance because it's a deadly disease. And I'm like, really? I was just itching, and I had a runny nose when I had the measles. Now, I don't know whether it was red measles or German measles, but I was a kid. But then when I had it as an adult, again, I was in my mid to late 50s, and yeah, I had a runny nose and an itchy red rash, but it was more annoying than anything else. But apparently, they tell us that the measles is a deadly disease. People die from it. And I've tried to research it, and the death rate is so small that the research papers, the peer reviewed papers, have concluded that it can be deadly if you have certain co something or others, comorbidities. If you're already ill, you don't want the measles. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's mutated. I don't know. I still haven't had the flu shot because I haven't had the flu since 1969. And even then, I wasn't very ill. Once again, I had a runny nose. And back then, we didn't isolate. So I never missed a day of school because I wanted to get away from the sick people at home. And a lot of my classmates had it too, and they were not very ill. They might have missed a day or two if their parents made them stay home, if they were running a fever. That was the clue we used in the 60s. If you're running a fever, you stay home. Well, when I had the flu in 69, I never ran a fever. When I had COVID in January this year, I never ran a fever. I did get chills. For 2 days, I think, I kept getting chills so bad my bones felt icy. So I was bundled up or standing in front of the heater because I was so cold. And it was cold outside, but I had the heat on. Yeah, they want everyone to get jabbed. They won't recognize natural immunity. But I do get vaccinated for tetanus. I'm not anti jab. I don't want to get tetanus. It is a deadly disease and it's painful too. And especially up here, we live among critters, squirrels, raccoons, uh, a type of rat that's as small as a mouse, uh, bears, mountain lions, coyotes. It's a darn good idea to get a tetanus shot because they can carry it without having any symptoms. Deacon said something about Tora and Sweetie. Well, Tora's sleeping on her penthouse. Let's see if I can point the camera at her. There she is, with her hindquarters pointed at us. I wonder if that's a message. Sweetie, I think it's, yeah, she's probably still in her bed in her bedroom. All right, I don't know. I'm going to grab another pack of Camel filters. I think I'll switch. Well, I might switch to Dunhill, but I'd have to severely cut the number that I smoke in a day because they cost half again as much. So if these are $10, Dunhills are 15. Oh, and we can't have menthol cigarettes in California. Apparently, menthol cigarettes are racist because black people like them. Uh, excuse me. I like chicken livers. Are they racist? I like chocolate. Is that racist? Oh, Morgan says camels are too harsh for him now. I've found that the 99s, the long camel filters, are not nearly as harsh, but I happen to like the short ones. Yeah, California is nuts. We can't have any fruit flavored cigarettes either, or cigars, or any tobacco product with flavors. Now, I can understand the fruit flavored ones. The idiots who made them packaged them to look like candy. So, of course, children were interested. Oh, there's Sweetie. She hopped down from her window. I didn't see you there, kid. She walked on top of Tora. Yeah, well, Sweetie's getting a drink of water, Tora. You don't need treats right now. You wait till she's through getting a drink. When I was a child, we had candy cigarettes. They were a sort of kind of minty or sometimes fruity flavored candy made to look like a cigarette in a box that looked like a cigarette package. Well, of course, we kind of wanted to grow up and smoke the real thing. I suppose that's bad, encouraging children to smoke. But, well, if you've ever had those pillow mints, they're little square candies that look like pillows. They were kind of like that, but in the shape of a cigarette with a red tip at one end. Crazy. That was probably going too far. Oh, Tora, you're a sweet cutie pie. She's right behind me. Sweetie's still drinking. Anyway, I should go in the other room and tamp this down and refill my water. So don't go away. I will be back. Uh, ah, dum be dum, dum be dum be dum, dum be dum. Water, lovely, filtered water. Oh, almost. Gotta open it. Oh, dum be dum be dum, dum be dum. Once again, what I do is technically not smoking. I'm burning cigarettes. Typical smokers, in case you missed it, suck the smoke down into their lungs. I don't do that. It's yucky. I just puff on them. Now, I'm sure I do breathe in cigarette smoke, but I am not sucking it down. Okay. Ah. Come on, throat, get empty. This is just a bit of bronchitis. It's not coming from my lungs. It's from the back of my mouth, the top of my throat, and it's from postnasal drip. My sinuses are still, you know, runny and full. And it isn't always a good idea to stop nasal congestion because that's one of your immune system's defenses against germs that you might breathe in. Of course, it's making it difficult to breathe. Yeah, you want to take something for that. And if you have an allergic reaction to pollen or something else, yeah, you want an antihistamine because your body is overreacting to the irritation. The last time I took penicillin around 1990, I was at home. I realized suddenly that I was having a very bad reaction. I didn't think that paramedics could get there in time, but I was in the bedroom where I kept my meds, not the bathroom because other people might mess with them or steal them. And I'd just taken the penicillin a few minutes earlier and I was getting flushed and itchy and dizzy. Well, I also had my cold medicine there. I took, now I'm not recommending this. It's, I'm not telling you what to do because I'm not a doctor, but I took a double dose of Benadryl because it um, is used quite often for various allergies. And I just kind of collapsed onto my bed. It was a water bed, so it was way down low on the floor. And between the Benadryl and the allergic reaction, I fell asleep for hours, but I survived. And I was going to grab the phone and call 911, but I passed out. Anyway, I survived. But really, that isn't the best way to do it. I was fortunate in having a glass of water and some cold medicine right next to me. Oh, and I should point out that I studied pre med for 3 years before I chickened out and decided to teach English. And in addition, sorry, I got itchies. Um, there were 4 professional nurses in my family. You should have heard our conversations at the dinner table of people who were not studying medicine at all. Uh, God, that's itchy tickly. They would lose their appetite while we discussed various illnesses and conditions and surgeries. And it didn't bother us at all. I used to eat fried egg sandwiches while I was working in the embryology lab. And when we switched to the lab where we grew bacteria in little petri dishes, they had to strictly enforce the don't eat in the lab rule. Some of us sneaked in some M&Ms, little chocolate candies to eat. Anyway, I was not your typical layman when I decided what to do about the shock reaction I was getting from the penicillin. But even so, I would not presume to tell you what to do. I'm still not a doctor. I do recommend that if you don't smoke, never start. If you can quit, that might be a good idea. Might not. There are some downsides to quitting, but on the whole, it's better not to smoke. See, I choose my risks. I don't drink or do drugs. I don't ride motorcycles, climb rocks, or swim in the ocean, and I quit riding horseback decades ago. So I'm going to outlive quite a few people. I also don't go skiing or snowboarding or sledding or tobogganing. The last thing I want to do is go downhill in the snow at an incredible breakneck speed. I went on a toboggan once with my dad and my brother when I was very young, about 7 years old, I think. 7 or 8. Let's see. Yeah, I was 7. Well, we had a disaster, and Dad got a broken back. So snow play just doesn't really appeal to me. I just had a split lip, but because I had blood all over me, the rescuers were hovering around me, and I was screaming, "Get my daddy!" Had to say it 3 times before they looked at him. Oh, hi, Oswald. Yeah, I often listen to Walter Bosley without chatting, mainly because it it's hard for me to sit for very long. I've found that I do better in the morning, but he's on in the evening. And if you get a chance, it, it's usually Sunday evening. Why is my screen washed out? Oh, it's the sunlight from the window. Let's see. That's a little better. I had it up high where it was catching the lamp. Oh, turn off the lamp. Oop. Yeah, it's also the sunshine. Okay. The camera is attached to the screen on the laptop. That's a little better. But Walter has been doing live shows at odd times too, different days. But if you can catch Walter Bosley or even watch the replay, he's really interesting. He's a real investigator, and he's been looking into the weird um, murders in the Inland Empire, Riverside and San Bernardino. and surrounding areas. One of them involved a man with connections to the Sonora Aero Club and uh, a group in the 1800s in Northern California who apparently had flying machines long before the Wright brothers. And from what I've seen of illustrations, I suspect that they were in part lighter than air, but they also had engines and something like big fans, kind of like a propeller airplane, but looking more like a dirigible, like the Hindenburg, which famously crashed and burned in New Jersey before World War II, but I'm not sure of the exact date. And people who either were alive at that time or heard from their parents in Germany still believe that it was sabotaged. And it might have been. What, Tora? Interestingly, the experts say, yes, Tora, you can have your treats. There, here. The experts say that it was not the hydrogen that was the problem that caused so many deaths. The hydrogen burst into flames, but what killed the people was the oil soaked fabric of the skin of the Hindenburg. The hydrogen started that on fire, and that is what was killing people. It was horrible. In many ways, more horrible than the Titanic. Oswald, tell me about Adventure Man. Oswald gave us a link to Adventure Man. Oh, wow. Most of what I watch on YouTube now is either cooking or medicine. The whole range from traditional, conventional medicine to alternatives, but quite often I listen for a few minutes to the alternative medicine and I think, this is hogwash, and I turn it off and watch something else. Now, it is true that our ancient ancestors ate meat whenever they could get it. But that doesn't mean you need a carnivore diet. We are not large cats or wolves or, we need our vegetables too. And the no dairy craze has gone bonkers. They don't even want you to have butter and cheese, and I'm not giving up cheese. Okay, let's see. Oh, Walter Bosley is Adventure Man. Cool. Thank you, Oswald. So if you want to see Walter Bosley, look for Adventure Man. Okay. Well, anyway, keto isn't for me because I'm not giving up squash, sweet potatoes, or baking potatoes, or mashed potatoes. They're not allowed, they have starch. Well, potatoes are almost a complete food. That's how the Irish survived on potatoes. That's how the Russians survived on potatoes when they had oh, I lost the word again. Not drought, famine. No butter, cheese, eggs, milk, or steak. Well, they do allow eggs. The keto and the carnivore. I'm not sure about the carnivore. Keto diet includes eggs. Eggs have all kinds of good fat and minerals and vitamins, even when you cook them. One thing I've started doing just to see if it's good, see how it affects me, is these cod liver oil capsules. They have vitamin A, vitamin D, and omega 3 fatty acids. So we'll see if they do any good for me. Couldn't hurt, as long as I don't go wild and take huge doses. Oh, you don't need a gas stove if you just eat cricket bars. True, you can just fire up your fireplace and put them on a stick and roast them. You know that people will resort to burning wood if they can't get gas and electricity, and that's not good for the environment. Even with our various scrubbers in our chimneys, uh, it fills your house with fumes and smoke. And the way, even if it's burning cleanly and most of the stuff is going up your chimney, there will be things that you cannot see, and it will deplete the oxygen in your home. Oh, yeah, we could eat rabbits. Well, if you're in Australia in particular, they've been trying for decades to eradicate the rabbits because they harm the uh, native species. Some fool introduced rabbits maybe 200 years ago, and they got loose and just multiplied like rabbits. I've eaten rabbit. I don't care for it. What happened was with the cookbook that Phil bought for me, my husband said I was the worst cook he ever met, but I just never learned how to cook. Well, anyway, I saw this recipe for Hassenpfeffer, peppered rabbit. And there was some rabbit at the grocery store, so I bought it and cooked it and served it, and it was okay. Doesn't really taste like chicken. Chicken has more flavor, and to me, the texture is better. Well, anyway, I served it up. Phil ate it up, loved it. But then I realized uh, I served the Easter bunny. It was Easter. Well, Easter week. I think it was Saturday, and the next day was Easter. Close enough. I just cooked the Easter bunny. Oh no. But yes, people have always eaten meat when they could get it, but quite often they couldn't get it. In England, I don't know how it is now, but there was a time when the lords of the manors and castles owned all the land and all the wildlife on it. And poaching was a big problem because people were hungry. There were certain species they were allowed to hunt, but other species they were not allowed to hunt. And they could be severely punished if they got caught. It wasn't like that here in the US, but it's getting to be like that. Big conglomerates are buying up all the farmland. Our county in particular is working to eradicate the illegal marijuana farms. We have some cities where you can legally grow a certain number of plants in certain conditions, etc., with a permit. But these actually Mexican cartels lease or buy or just take over land out in the desert. They steal water to water their crop, and they use all kinds of chemical fertilizers and pesticides that are illegal to use. And they grow marijuana and sell it on the street. And it's full of all these chemicals that are really bad for you. Plus, they're destroying the land with all their chemicals and their um, unsound practices. And what they're doing for labor, for the workers on their marijuana farms, they're smuggling illegal aliens, undocumented persons in, and they have to work so many days or weeks or hours to pay off the cartel for smuggling them in. And they work in terrible conditions. It's slavery. And when they lose workers, they just smuggle more in to work without pay in terrible conditions. And they're stealing water to water their crop when we're in a drought. We've our county has managed to eliminate quite a few of these illegal farms, but actually it's probably less than half of the ones that were going. Oh, Beacon says you still do poaching. Trout? I don't know what tickling is. Oh, trout tickling. I see. Pheasant lures. Lamping with lurchers? I don't know what lamping with lurchers is. Yeah, I guess the Lords still own the trout and the pheasants. Oh, we're supposed to eat ferrets, Jack Russell Terriers, and bugs, huh? Yeah, a lot of people who own land in the desert are selling it or trying to. It's gotten too dangerous. They've actually these cartels have actually approached road workers, county roads, who are out there to you know tamp down the road, the dirt road, smooth it out, and these cartels have approached them with guns and say, uh, "You don't need to work on this road today. Go away." It's scary. People living in the desert don't feel safe, and not all of them are able to leave. And some of them have just packed up and become homeless to get away from them. This is California, Oswald. Top Rankin is also in California. It's horrible. And I did share a video about it on Crestline Happenings on Facebook. It was an interview with our new county supervisor, Dawn Rowe. On the interview, they call her Dawn Rao, but our local news reporters call her Dawn Rowe. So it's probably Rowe. Uh, yes, Top Rankin is in Crestline. I know that, Top Rankin, but I didn't know whether you wanted to say it. Uh, anyway, um, California needs to get rid of some of these agencies and bureaus and offices. I'm tired of being ruled over by people who sit at a desk and don't really do any real work, but they're better than we are, and they tell us what to do. Like the head of our water, whatever, the water board or whatever they call it in Sacramento, has a college degree in English. What does he know about engineering? Dams and canals and rivers and streams and lakes. I have to be careful. I have a degree in English, but I know more about water than that idiot. Okay, Beacon says lamping is when you dazzle a rabbit or stag with a spotlight. Oh, yeah, I've seen that on some British murder mystery. They'd turn on the car headlights. Oh, you can't even own hunting rifles? On Midsummer Murders, they some of them had hunting rifles, but they had to have licenses. So you need a few bull terriers and a knife to live off the land. Cute. Well, very few people can live off the land here anymore. There have been stories of people living off the grid. They set up their homes with like a well and a solar panel or something for electricity. And the authorities came in, sometimes armed with guns, and insisted they had to either hook up to the grid or leave. So even though they had everything they needed without electricity and water service, that's not allowed. You have to hook up to the utilities. And quite often, they're so far out in the boonies, it would cost thousands of dollars to have power poles and electric cables strung out to where they live. Yeah, Tora is being antsy today. She's hopping around. There must be a critter out there that she wants to hunt. Probably birds. And I don't want her killing the birds. I like birds. I think our mountain lion might have visited here a week ago. Mountain lions have huge territories, so it takes about 2 months for the mountain lion to make the full circuit of the perimeter of his territory. But I found paw prints in the snow that could have been a big dog, but it did not have the little pointy things from toenails. So I'm not sure. Also, well, for one thing, sometimes the people get their dog's toenails trimmed because they grow too long. But also, the paw prints tend to get bigger when they're in snow. So it might not have been as big as it looked when I saw it. But whatever it was, there were these little cat footprints running away from it and under my gate. And whatever that bigger critter was, it did not come in to my yard. So apparently, the fact that my yard is fenced saved a cat's life, or at least sense of well being and safety. No, they haven't found the British actor who went missing. I never heard of him before he got lost on Mount Baldy, and I've forgotten his name. They've found other missing hikers, but not that one. So the general consensus is that he must have been buried in an avalanche, and that's why they can't find him. We have to wait for the snow to melt. Oh, the Bodmin Moor Beast in England, the Nessie and the Bodmin Moor Beast. That must have been the inspiration for um, that Sherlock Holmes uh, story. I've forgotten the title. Oh, The Hound of the Baskervilles. Julian Sands. That's the missing actor. Thank you, Top Rankin. Well, I get it confused with the Scarlet Claw, which is a similar Sherlock Holmes story. But in that story, it's a man who is committing murders for revenge. And of course, there's a woman. There's always a woman. She jilted him and married someone else, and uh, the bad guy ended up in prison. And when he came out, he started killing her and her husband and so forth. Oh, I don't remember Karloff in the Claw. This was the Scarlet Claw. Probably a different story, maybe not. You see, filmmakers are not stupid. They like to use stories that are no longer covered by copyright so they don't have to pay the author. The author's usually dead, but he has descendants, children, grandchildren. So there are lots of movies made from older literature because it isn't under copyright anymore. They save a few $1,000s. Oh, you have the England has the Cairngorm Beastie. Wow. Now, the one movie that scared me more than anything, I think it was called The Hand. Horror movie in which uh, the hand of a dead man was severed and it went around strangling people. Just a hand. Oh, yeah, Cairngorm beastie. That does sound like Scottish. And Beacon says, yes, it's in Scotland. Well, yeah. I have a lot of Scottish in me. Little Irish, but they say now that the original Lowland Scots were Irish immigrants. So I guess that makes me Irish. But I have a good deal of Welsh as well, and some Viking, the Fosters who came over with William the Bastard. That was his real title. It's what everybody called him. His father didn't marry his mother. But in those days, if you were a lord and you had an illegitimate child, you could recognize him or her. And that would make the bastard child legitimate. Anyway, he came over and conquered England, so he was William the Conqueror. And he won primarily because some asshole broke the rules. An archer shot King Harold the Lesser during the battle. And you're not supposed to do that. The king is not supposed to be killed by a commoner. He can be killed by a knight or his opposing lord or king or prince, not by some commoner with a bow and arrow. But that turned the tide of the battle. They say Highland Scots probably have Viking blood. Originally they were Pictish. Picts is too hard to pronounce. But a Highland Scot was a Pict without the S. Picture people, the Romans called them, because they painted their faces and their bodies. And they also did some rock writing, petroglyphs. They wrote on the walls of caves and such. They were not illiterate as the historians want you to believe. They just didn't know Latin or English. They had their own language. Yeah, I think the Welsh are Anglophobic. They had their own nation, their own government, etc. And I think it was one of the Richards, King Richard, I don't know which one, probably the first, because Richard II was basically a glutton who loved to hold huge, expensive feasts. And Richard III, well, we know about him. He was actually a good king who had a legitimate claim to the throne. But they thought he killed his nephews. No one ever found their bodies. I kind of suspect that he banished them to France or something like that. But whatever he did, he was known as a usurper. Anyway, one of the English kings conquered the Welsh, and they've never forgiven the English for that. They had their own kingdom, thank you very much. Beacon's family is Celt. His sister is pure Welsh, and he's Irish. I wonder how that happened. One of you must have been born on the wrong side of the blanket. Or one of your parents married twice. The genes do get all mixed up. What I found interesting on Ancestry is that I share more DNA with my sister than with my brother. I'm trying to read the chat. Anyway, I had to, moderate a comment. I decided to leave it up. It kind of makes sense because women have two X chromosomes. So my sister and I got an X chromosome from each of our parents, but our brother got an X and a Y. So it isn't likely that we would share more DNA with our brother because we don't have Y chromosomes. I'm smoking too much, but I want it, and I'm going to have it. It's so good to have a whole bunch of people in chat. I'm not a very social person, but somehow when it's online, it's good. When I'm in a large crowd, say 10 people or more, even 5 or 6 sometimes, I'm uncomfortable. But I'm okay. In fact, I enjoy a small gathering, maybe 3 or 4 people, maybe as many as 6. I'm not sure sometimes. Now, if I'm at say a concert and there's people all around me, that's fine. I don't have to interact with. But meetings, I'm a member of Lions International, the world's largest service organization. And our Rose Parade float always gets some kind of prize from the governor of the parade. Anyway, when I go to meetings, there's between 20 and 30 people, and what I have to do is choose a table where I'm going to sit according to how well I like the people and just stay there and try not to notice the other 20 people. Oh, yes, Viken was on Freedomizer Radio. Well, I had to give up Freedomizer. And I won't go into detail, but at first I thought I was being poorly treated by the new management. And then they definitely mistreated some friends of mine. So I quit. Some of my friends online go back to Whitley Strieber's Unknown Country, back when his chat room was free and you did not have to send a couple bucks every month. I'm not against him making a little money to support the website, but I simply cannot afford it. There are so many things I would like to join, but I'm on a very strict budget, a fixed income, etc. And now I have a $600 gas bill that I can't pay. I might have found more ways to conserve if they had warned me at the beginning of the month, but they didn't bother to tell us till after that month was over. And some people have bills that are more than $1,000 for 1 month of service. Ordinarily in the winter, I have maybe $100 to $150 a month. January was excessively cold, but 600? It should not have been more than 300, which is my normal bill in February. Yeah. Oh, Clyde Lewis is subscriber only? That's a bummer. I do sometimes listen to Dark Journalist and Jimmy Church on YouTube. I can't send them money. I can't buy their products that they get a commission on. As much as I would like to have a solar powered generator, for example, if the discount price is $200 off the usual price, how much is the usual price? And I don't believe in buying huge tubs of survival food. I'm sorry, but I get food that I like. It can be frozen or in cans or dry packaged like rice, flour, sugar, um, tapioca, various um, cookies, crackers, or whatever that keep for a long time. I'm good. And if I have to, I'll get beef jerky or pemmican, uh, the dried meats that um, last for years and years. I'm not eating my cat and I'm not eating bugs. And the birds around here are little tiny things, not worth bothering with. Yeah, we do have bald eagles and huge owls, but um, no. No, no, no. I am considering chickens, but I'm not allowed to have a rooster. I don't have enough land. It would bother the neighbors by crowing at dawn. When I was a kid, we had a pet rooster in Culver City. It was okay then. Well, at at night when it got dark, Mom would turn on the porch light to the backyard, and the rooster would crow at it. It was hilarious. So he crowed at dawn and dusk. I don't remember the chicken's name. He was a white leghorn rooster, just a pet. We never ate him, but I'd kind of like to have a couple laying hens. Of course, if you've ever seen an egg when it comes out of the chicken, you have to clean off the poop, and that would kill my appetite. Oh, we have wild turkeys around here. They had been hunted too much and Maybe there were some, but no hunter could find them. So this club of people who hunt turkeys imported wild turkeys. I think they're allowed to shoot one every winter. It's something like that. But now we have the wild turkeys. All their feathers are black. And one time driving down the road at night, a road with no lights, because this is the mountains, I had to stop and wait for a couple turkeys to get out of the road. They were mating. Also, with a permit, you're allowed to kill one deer, one a year, but only if your family is going to eat it. And there are people who really need that food. I think what we have is probably mule deer. They're small, but they are native. We used to have, I guess, 100 years ago, not mountain goats, they were sheep. I forget what they're called. The ones with the curly horns. Maybe they were mountain goats. Whatever they were, somebody says they saw one recently, and they had not been seen in 100 years. Someday I would like to go to an English pub and just order a little bit of everything. Uh, Bubble and squeak, Yorkshire pudding. Now, a full English breakfast is something I could never eat all of it, but I could taste everything. I'm not sure about the black pudding. And for Americans, that's actually a sort of a bread or a muffin. Pudding has many different meanings, but in the Middle Ages, no, more like the Renaissance, it was mostly various types of bread. Like at Christmas and New Year's, you'll have a pudding, like in the uh, novels of Charles Dickens, like A Christmas Carol. The pudding was a bread that was wrapped up real good and dropped into a pot of boiling water to cook. See, people didn't have ovens for ages and ages. There was a baker in town who had ovens, and you would pay the baker to bake your bread. And the baker paid a tax and so forth. So, the elites made money off of other people's labor. Uh, so at home, people didn't have ovens, so in fact, in some cases, it was illegal to have an oven. They would either put it in a sturdy iron pot and hang it over the fire, or wrap it up and put it into boiling water. Uh, okay, what is literally rubbish, Vegan? Taters and Yorkshire pudding and gravy? Redneck heaven. Tastes lovely, but it's literally rubbish. Oh, and a pint of Guinness. I can't drink Guinness. Yeah, one of the things, I don't know if it's so now, but in the 1970s, a pint of beer in Germany would be warm and have a raw egg in the bottom. I can't drink beer or ale. It comes back up. It won't stay down. I did manage to drink a Budweiser once. It's made with rice instead of wheat, but I really think it's the hops that get to me. Yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, black pudding is made with blood. Deacon says it's pig blood. Whatever. We were not meant to eat blood, and yet there's this tribe in Africa that keeps cattle, and they don't eat the cattle. They don't eat the cows. They milk them and then drain some blood and mix the milk and blood together. Uh, Not for me. No, thank you. Oh, wow, it's almost 2 hours and my back isn't killing me. Bubble and squeak, by the way, would be cabbage and, oh dear, cabbage squeaks. I forget what the bubble is. It's either potatoes or green peas. Anyway, I want to try all those things. To heck with the Tower of Big Ben and the um, Buckingham Palace. I want to check out the food. Masai Mara? Masai Mara. Oh, yeah, that would be the African tribe, the Maasai. By the way, I've learned two phrases. I guess they're in Swahili. If you happen to be alone on the road, or just a couple of you walking down the road and you see the Maasai, first you say, Dumisha Imani, keep the faith. And then you say, Safari Jama, travel safely or well. For some reason, the oh, come on, missionaries in Africa use those phrases when they meet strangers in Africa. Keep the faith and travel well. Um, and teach them to their friends at home when they come back to the States. It's a way of making friends with the strangers you meet. Hmm. Anyway, yeah, it must be the Maasai who live on milk and blood. It reminds me of a scandal over McDonald's French fries in India because so many people there are vegetarian. It's part of their religion. Sorry, I got hair tickles and itchies again. Um, One of the ways that they make their French fries taste so good is to add beef bouillon to the oil. And they were doing that in India, and people almost had a riot when they found out. We're vegetarian, we don't eat beef. So McDonald's had to change the recipe. I don't eat at McDonald's. Maybe once a year, I'll get their fish fillet. sandwich. I kind of like it, but it never has enough sauce. You pay something like $2 for a little cup of extra sauce. But other than that, no. Their French fries cannot be reheated. They just turn into uh, a combination of crisp and rubbery that you really can't chew. Even with my dentures on, I can't chew them. They aren't real potatoes. When I get real French fries, whether I make them at home or go to the local Crestline Cafe, those can be reheated. They're made with potatoes. Um, McDonald's has this slurry that it squirts out to form their fries, and God knows what's in it. They taste good while they're still warm, but you cannot reheat them. And I'm worried about what's probably in them. Yeah, the Hindus did make the cow sacred. Beacon heard that it was because the sacred blue mushrooms grow on their dung. Well, that's what they say in Oregon, that if you want blue mushrooms, just go to a cow pasture. I don't recommend blue mushrooms, by the way. Well, the Crestline Cafe used to be Billy Bear's, but when Billy died and his children sold it, it became Crestline Cafe. Billy Bear had, uh, oh, come on, bears, stuffed bears. There's a word for that. Teddy bears all over the place for decoration. It probably wasn't too good for sanitation, but they were cute. Anyway, um, it was a tradition that unfortunately had to die, but they've kept the menu pretty much the same. And the food is better now. I have to admit that. Uh, it's better. Billy Bear's was kind of going downhill. Let's see. Oh, Top Rankin has been here longer than I have. It was in the Crestline Cafe was in Toptown. Maybe I just didn't notice. Another great place to eat is the Stockade. It's a bar with a kitchen. And my son told me not to go there alone because it's a pickup bar. But they do have a pool table, and it's been years since I've played 8 ball or 9 ball. I don't know how to play snooker. Not sure what it is, but it just has white balls and red balls. But I haven't gone in and put my quarters into the pool table. Anyway, up at um, one in Top Town that used to have a different name, and I'm blanking on it. I'm blanking on its new name too. The big one that in the 1920s was actually sort of a bar. They have a pool table that's free. You don't have to put in quarters. I don't know about Hell's Angels. Yeah, Stockade Barbecue is awesome. Sometimes they have a guy who comes around with a smoker, and he smokes the barbecue out front, and then they take it into the kitchen to bring it up to the heat that's required for restaurants to serve meat. The Caboose, yeah. And now it's the Bear House. Thank you, Top Rankin. I was thinking trains, but I couldn't come up with Caboose. Loose Caboose. I don't know about Hell's Angels, Deacon, but there is a motorcycle club that comes up here from time to time. They're mostly veterans. And of course, they ride in our small town parade for the 4th of July. They are not Hell's Angels, as far as I know. The Hells Angels have been trying to clean up their reputation. For example, they'll all get teddy bears and ride to a children's hospital and give teddy bears to the children. Most of their violence has been against other motorcycle gangs, most infamously the Cowboys from Arizona. They were really bad. A bunch of drug dealing thugs. Anyway, long time ago since I've even met a biker, except in the parade. And then they're just driving by and I snap a photo. It's getting dark again. I think the next storm is coming in. They told us on the weather service that we wouldn't get another storm till Saturday, but they warned us about high wind. And up on the rim, they've had some really strong winds, but not down here. I'm down in a sort of valley, relatively flat part of the mountain. It's known as the Bowl. And up on Bowl Road, a little higher than I am, that used to be the seating for an amphitheater. It just didn't succeed. But at least 100 years ago, someone built an amphitheater and put on entertainment. Now we have once in a while free movies next to Lake Gregory in what people have been calling the ball field for a long, long time. But its original purpose was for community picnics and other gatherings. The local Little League got the right to use it and make it into a ball field where they also played soccer, which Viken calls football. But they got that deal by promising to keep the grass green. Problem is, it turned out they were pumping water from the lake, and there's some regulation that doesn't allow that. Even though our lake does not provide drinking water to the community, it's sort of a, even though it's man made, it's sort of a habitat for animals. Not just the fish, which are stocked, by the way. Once or twice a year, a truck comes and dumps a bunch of trout into the water, and maybe some bluegill and rock bass or bigmouth bass. But also the critters that come to drink the water. All kinds of critters need a drink of water. So, anyway, the new management at the lake is turning it into a field of nice green grass. And I think it was once a month they'd have a free movie on a huge outdoor movie screen, and you could just come and watch it. But nobody's doing that in December, January, or February. It's too cold. I do like the new management because they're local people. They understand what the community needs and what the tourists need. We're a tourist town. Anyway, oh, I'm well past 2 hours. Yeah, Top Rankin says they did a great job on the fields and she loves the new Duffy boats. Those Duffy boats are cute. They have like a canvas canopy over them, and I guess up to 6 people can sit in the boat and tootle around the lake. You can bring your own kayak, but it has to be inspected for some critter that sticks to boats. They don't want it in the lake. I don't think it's barnacles. Whatever it is, it's bad news. But yeah, I'd kind of like to go on a Duffy boat. Problem is, I get seasick looking at a boat. But I think I could manage a slow and sedate trip around the lake and take some Dramamine just in case. Hmm. Hi, Tora. What? You're going to end up diabetic if you keep eating treats like that. Evil cat. Okay, I'll give you a couple. But you're really pushing your luck, kid. I've found that the way to cut down on how many treats she eats is to give her fewer of them every time. Let's see. What did Viken say? Oh, most of the Hells Angels are old men now, and some are pastors and church folk. Yeah, we had a pastor. I don't know if he's still there, but he was a biker who rented a slot in a local strip mall. The strip mall basically had a pizza parlor and the church. And he would do food giveaways for people who needed food out in VOE, Valley of Enchantment. There's big ranch there. I don't know if they still do, but they used to rent horses. You could ride for an hour for $20 or something. Hmm. Yeah. I always meant to visit his little church, which was basically a cubbyhole, a little tiny office, but I never did. Top Rankin says they did a great. Oh, I already read that. Great job on the fields and the Duffy boats, yeah. Once in a while, people will get together because it isn't free to ride a Duffy boat. They'd pool their money and rent a Duffy boat. And I've had the opportunity, but it just didn't work out. I don't really have a schedule, but whenever something interesting comes up, oh, I have to do this other thing instead. It's over 2 hours now, and time to make breakfast and stuff like that. I don't really eat meals, I can't. This hiatal hernia, well, over here, where my stomach likes to poke up through the diaphragm, the breathing muscle. They told me if you fill your stomach too full, that could be dangerous. It'll interfere with your breathing for sure, and it could affect your heart. So I mostly snack during the day, but I'll have sausage or bacon and eggs and just eat a little, not a great big plateful, and call it breakfast even if I'm eating at midnight. And I love a grilled cheese toast or a raisin bread toast with a little jelly on it, or better yet, a ton of melted butter and cinnamon sugar. It's, it's 6:30 in the evening in Viken's neighborhood, so he has to go eat dinner. I have to get going. I'll type my outro. Let's see. Thank you all for listening, and have day, come on, DAY, evil keyboard, a great day, week, month, and year. It's got to get better. And don't eat any bugs. Bugs are not food. I ate an ant once. I was 3 years old and curious. Don't eat ants. Ugh. They have a very strong acid, formic acid. That old horror movie, Them, was about giant ants that were killing people. Tora, leave the treats alone. You get fat and diabetic. Okay, see you guys, and love you, and bless you. Bye.